Here is Chad Davis. Chad, go ahead with your question. Thanks for waiting.
Good morning, Bill. Good to talk to you again here. My question for Bob and John is simply, and I've heard Scott Parra mention this. I went to the forums that they had, and of course, we legislators are always briefed on issues, including by Steve DeMille, right on down, and we were privy to a lot of information, as I trust the public has also had the opportunity to gather up in different resources. But there's going to be a tremendous significant cost savings by consolidating 3 physical plants into one. And it's in the millions and millions of dollars. And in this push for health care savings, I know Medicaid costs have been cut back from nursing homes and hospitals, and doctors complain about how much they get paid for Medicaid these days. That's the fight in the future, is fewer dollars to provide for health care. So that savings in energy costs, et cetera, goes right to the bottom line of a hospital's operation. So I thought maybe they could touch upon that savings aspect of this consolidation.
All right, so the importance of consolidation financially for you, Bob.
Right. Well, it's no surprise to anyone here that New York State's one of the most difficult states to do business in from a healthcare perspective.
Right. Might be for any perspective, from any perspective. Right.
And I think we rank 49th out of 50 states in terms of hospital profitability, and we're no exception to that.
I didn't know that. Okay.
So this new facility allows us to combine services within the within the new hospital. Everything that we currently have will move into that, but we're estimating savings of excess of $15 million a year. That goes a long way of making sure that we remain a viable institution going forward.
John,
I'd like to touch on something that Chad said before the break, where he cited examples of other upstate cities and Boston, I think he mentioned as well, where hospitals are an important part of the urban fabric and a real boost to the downtown economy. And that is something that you see across the country, especially in the last couple of decades. And there's a concept, it's called EDS and MEDS, where they are anchor institutions within the urban fabric, and they really bolster the downtown and the regional economy. That's what we're looking at here, on a smaller scale, of course, than a Boston or a larger city. Yeah. And it also, and I think this is what you see with state, city, county, EDGE, the foundation, the hospital, all working together, is to make that happen in a way that complements the resurgence, the revitalization that we're seeing incrementally in other parts of the urban area.
Also, we had hit the garage, and you answered the garage issue. I think, just to clarify, you're not saying that this parking garage is going to solve Utica's parking problem. However, answer that, because.
Is it going to solve the Utica parking problem? Probably not, but it will go a long way of adding parking.
Right, and especially in that neighborhood.
Especially in that particular area, correct.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, if there's a greater need for parking than we currently have as a result of the hospital being downtown, that's a problem we'd like to have. Then that may require additional growth in parking downtown.
To Chad Davis's question on 3 facilities combined into one, would Faxton stay open? Would it be actually the consolidation of 2 facilities or 3?
Well, it's the consolidation of 2 facilities, the St. Elizabeth and Faxton St. Luke's campus. That's where our inpatient services are. So they'll be consolidated into one building. Through this reuse study, which will determine what we'll use the other facilities for, one of the 3 hospital campuses will remain in the system. Our working assumption today is that Faxton will, because that's where we have our urgent care, dialysis services, cancer program, but that's still yet to be determined. So one of the 3 campuses will remain.
Out of the emails that were foiled, I also found it interesting that at the time, Utica College seemed to have absolutely no interest in the St. Luke's campus. A lot of people have said, boy, wouldn't it be awesome? They add a medical program and they take over that facility. Does that still remain the same? Although you are talking about the potential for education here.
Right. We've not spoken to Utica College.
Yeah.
I mean, personally, outside my role at the MVHS, it's across the street.
Right.
So certainly I could see that there would potentially be benefit, but that's obviously decisions they need to make.
Sure.
That's 5 years down the road.
Right.
New president. Again, we have not discussed it with
them. All right. John has been waiting very patiently for about 20 minutes. So, John, you're on with the downtown hospital issue here. Go ahead.
Hey, I recall sometime back an issue raised, I think, by the No Hospital Downtown people about a red zone. The hospital possibly being located in a red zone had something to do with the
train
station and everything. Yeah. Just wondered, is that a real or fabricated issue, and what's the status of that?
Do you guys want to get into that?
To the best that I can.
Has that been brought up? That issue been brought up?
It has been brought up.
Yeah.
The concept of a red zone came up earlier in our planning process. We reached out to the local authorities and disaster preparedness people to see if indeed does that exist.
Yeah.
There is no federal or state governmental designation of a red zone. Some environmental agencies have determined that some train tracks fall within a red zone.
So that is the transportation of flammable liquids, contaminants. Right. If something were to happen with a train accident, and it were to happen perfectly, the perfect storm were to occur, were you at least set at ease that you would be in a safe situation, have the hospital there?
Well, we would be in a safe situation because the location of the train tracks, where it's passing through Utica, because the train station is just past the auditorium,
yeah.
It's already a slower speed limit for trains. So one of the things they would do normally if there was a concern is lower the speed limit. It already is. We have, and we will continue to have, disaster preparedness mechanisms in place for any type of event.
Right,
we had to do it for Stella last year. We would have to do it if there were a fire. And in the unfortunate event of a train incident, we would be prepared for that as well.
All right. Okay, John, thanks for the call. Jim, standing by on the line here. James, you're on the radio.
Good morning, Bill. Good morning, folks. Bob had mentioned that the taxpayers' money not being involved, and obviously there is $300 million of state taxpayer money. There is definitely local taxpayer money being utilized for this project for the garage. My question is, if you folks are so confident that this is the right site, why has this study not been released to the public for everybody to view? That this was the right decision and the right site for the hospital to be located downtown.
All right. I'll let you, Bob, you want to take that?
Well, the study I referenced earlier, first of all, was used for internal purposes, but there are locations in the community that were listed on there that those property owners and those communities weren't aware of. Because that was part of a high-level study. So it doesn't make any sense to us to release information about a possible location in this neighborhood or that neighborhood when that's no longer a consideration.
Okay, all right.
Was it 12? Did you say 12?
12.
Boy, and that was, I was surprised when I had heard that it was a dozen locations, because we had talked about maybe 3, 4, 5. But so there was quite a scope when they looked into where they were going to locate.
Jim in Utica, you're on. 315-736-0186 is the phone number. We'll go a few more minutes. I could go till 10 if you want, but probably not. But a few more minutes, and I appreciate you guys going extra time here for us.
Thank you.
Jim in Utica, you're on.
Good morning. I was just going to ask you, if in 20, 25 years, if there was a need for an expansion, would you be able to do it, or would you be locked in the area?
All right, would you be landlocked?
In 20 to 25 years.
20 to 25 years.
Will you be here, Bob? I hope you will.
Well, 25 years from now, God willing.
I think you will, yes.
Part of the planning of a project of this nature, regardless of its location, you have to consider how you can expand on it in the future. And healthcare is one of those areas where technology changes regularly. Volumes in the healthcare rise and drop in crazy ways. But also, whatever happens to this community, a large industry comes to town and we have 100,000 more people move in. We need to be prepared.
Amazon changed their mind. They're moving to Utica. 50,000 jobs.
Wouldn't that be wonderful?
We're going to need more parking.
Yeah, we might need more parking.
And they will look to see the quality of healthcare in the community before they decide where they relocate to, which is to mention. Mm-hmm. But yes, this project does take into consideration the ability to expand.
You've touched on something, and I just believe it to be very true. That they will look at the quality of healthcare. Now, I have relocated in my life. I'm sure a lot of people have relocated. When you're thinking about moving to an area, you look at some key issues. You look at nightlife. The ability to do the things you like to hike, you like to winter. School district is probably one of the most important issues. Everybody wants to go to that school district that has the great numbers. Additionally, on top of that, it's health care. We're going to be looking at a transformed downtown. The Nexus Center is going up. The Odd the work that was done on the arterial, all of these different things that are happening. Now you place a hospital there. It's going to, in 2022, this is going to look quite differently downtown, which should be a positive.
It should be a positive.
Yeah.
In addition to looking different, because we have this 600,000 plus square foot building, the growth that we anticipate surrounding the facility will be significant.
Al has been waiting as well. 315-736-0186. It's probably going to be the last one I can take here. Al, you're on with your question. Go ahead.
Yeah, good morning, gentlemen. I've been driving down Columbia Street for years, and I mean, I just can't. You look to the left if you're going east, and it's like, my God. You know, so sick of looking at that. From the Seacon building down, it's just terrible. So it's definitely going to pick the area up. All these small businesses that open, maybe you'll see people going and having a bite to eat for breakfast, going out to lunch. You know, it'll become more of a thriving area for the city. Also, I think you said the best thing was healthcare is the biggest issue here.
Yeah.
You know, it's definitely the biggest issue. Our last rating, our hospitals, out of 5, they're rated 1 and 2s. So, you know, hopefully with the coming in a new hospital, we can get some new people in, some better health care for the area. And I'd like to ask one question to the gentleman, too. How tall is this building going to be? How many stories?
How tall, how many stories is this planned?
It'll be 9 stories occupied, and then
it's going to change the skyline. Utica
correct.
skyline will be changing.
It will,
especially if you come down Route 12. All right, Al, that answer that question. I want to piggyback off what Al said, because I can imagine you love hearing this, Bob. Our health care here is terrible. This, I hope, will change things and turn things around. When people say that, that's going to personally bother you. Inside. I mean, you put a lot of time, the people who work there, address that, could you? Because we hear it a lot.
Well, I've been in healthcare for 33 years. My entire family works in healthcare. The people that take care of patients on a day-to-day basis do it with their heart and soul. But we do recognize that the challenges that we have to provide the highest level of healthcare are there every single day. When you look, and he makes reference to the star ratings, when you look at the star ratings in the areas that are impacted because of our current facilities, one of them is infections. When you have a hospital full of semi-private rooms where it's not identified that somebody has an infection in a timely basis, well, that infection now spreads to the person next to you.
Yeah.
A large portion of the star ratings are related to patients' perception of their quality and the environment that they're in. Our patient satisfaction scores, although equivalent to the rest of the state, but when you compare to the rest of the country, are lower because people are not happy being in semi-private rooms. The age of the building gives a perception of cleanliness. So we do think that a new facility, in addition to adding high-quality healthcare providers, creates an environment that's conducive to positive care.
Can you talk also about the how important when you're building a new hospital, you're considering the fact that there's a flow which doesn't exist with 3 separate facilities right now, and even in individual facilities where you got to go way upstairs and over to another wing, and you got to. I mean, there's a lot of that right now.
You can easily get lost in either one of our facilities if you're not really acquainted with them, and they're built a long time ago with add-ons. So you make an addition and another addition, and they don't flow well. The construction of the new facility, the design is purposely pays attention to flow, how we get patients from one place to another, how staff work within that environment. It will be set up that every single room is set up in the same way, so the staff don't have to think twice where they're going to find things. It will just make a lot more sense.
All right. Anything you guys want to add?
Just that the Community Foundation got into this issue full-heartedly some number of months ago because our board came to the conclusion that this is not only the right thing for the region, but it's important as an investment in our future for healthcare, for economic development, for all of the reasons that we've talked about this morning.
I will say I'd like to thank our audience, people who called in, because I thought everybody had good questions. They were good questions. I know this can be extremely difficult for a lot of people, and it's in some ways controversial, and people get very emotional. But they weren't that way today. I thought they asked valid questions, and there was no yelling and any of that. So that's a positive.
Well, we've gave some great news yesterday.
Yeah, can we review that quickly? Huge news yesterday.
Huge news yesterday. The MVHS, through its own finances, is committing $1 million for assistance for relocation of the property owners within Utica or Oneida County. And secondly, we will pay for the remediation of any environmental issues that are present on the properties from previous owners. Both of those were the items that came up most often as concerns from the property owners.
And continuing coordination among all of the partner states, city, county, MVHS, EDGE, the Community Foundation, and our other community partners as well, that makes possible some of those decisions and some of those moves, and also the hiring of a coordinator, single point of contact to work through the life of the project and perhaps beyond to address the issues that we've talked about, including reuse.
Reuse of the properties, most
help
likely
the property owners.
And help the property owners, a project manager
and urban
for that.
integration
downtown.
I think that's really important.
One final, I love that, to be honest with you, over at St. Luke's, I do like the food there. You can make a really nice sandwich. They weigh it. It's really good. There are some that say you're going to build such an awesome cafe and facility that no one's going to leave the premises. Everybody's going to stay on campus, and no business owners are going to reap the benefit. Address that, and that'll be my final.
Well, a nurse working on the floors is very unlikely to leave the building to go across the street to a deli to have lunch. That just doesn't happen. But what does happen is that we have many vendors that come through the facility on a daily basis. We have tours of the facilities for prospective new employees and physicians at lunch, but also our staff orders an awful lot of takeout.
Yeah.
And it comes through the facility every single day.
You're putting 4,000 people downtown. That is
not quite 4,000. We have 4,700 employees. About 3,200 will be downtown.
But then you have patients and families, and so whatever the number is,
it's a lot of people.
Adding that vibrancy to downtown is extremely important. It brings activity. It is going to mean you're going to sit and wait in traffic a little more, but I would take that as a problem. I think that problem is a good problem. Gentlemen, thank you for taking the time this morning.
Thanks,
and
Bill.
Staying overtime.
Thank you.
We did 90 minutes, pretty close to that.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you very much. We'll break.